We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
Say what?
Everything is in context. My mother she would give us a hard time sometimes, and she would say to us, I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
And add in third-party candidates, and Trump's lead jumps even more. He has 42% to Biden's 33%, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. gets 16% of the vote.
States of America, Donald. Tap on the shoulder. You adjust the microphone as you told, man. Coconut trees? What is she talking about? And then Dementia Joe out there babbling incoherently. Meanwhile, everybody behind him's clapping like they understood what the heck he just said. Poll after poll is beginning to come out showing that Dementia Joe and Cackles Kamala are swirling the bowl. It's over. And everyone knows it's over, and the panic has begun. They didn't stop Trump. They made him stronger. And oh, by the way, at that White House Correspondents' Dinner, something else got revealed. Old Joe can't even eat like a normal person. We can all see his cognitive decline, and there's nothing they can do about it. They can't keep hiding him. But instead of seeing old Joe and Cackles Kamala as the problem, they decided to blame college kids. They keep seeing their home field advantages shrinking all over the place. They're losing voters in the black community. They're losing voters in the Hispanic community. And now the Dems are seeing college kids turn their back on Dementia Joe. And it's causing quite the panic in the media and in the inner circles of the Democrat Party. Listen to this segment on Morning Joe.
Despite the criticism that she isn't doing enough to stop these protests or to protect Jewish students at Columbia, the president of the school, Manoush Shafiq, reassured the student protesters there won't be any lockdowns or evictions taking place at the encampment, and she's promised it won't allow the NYPD to come back on campus and make...
So she's not even allowing the police to do their job. She's letting this stuff fester, let these kids run wild, making the other paying kids have to suffer because of what these nuts are doing on campus. There are no adults in the room. These kids have taken over college campuses.
Arrest, saying it would be, quote, counterproductive.
That what the students feel about the university is important enough that maybe we could bring this university to a halt and really reorder its priorities. But at the
This piece was from an interview in 1968 when all the riots were taking place, and it aired on Morning Joe this morning.
moment, it doesn't seem that this is possible at all. We may halt classes for a few days. We may even halt it for a spring. But ultimately, we don't change the foundation of this university, which is essentially an enormous business corporation.
I've got to say, it makes as much sense in 2024 having 18 or 19-year-old people running college campuses as it did in 1968, which is to say, doesn't make any sense at all. And you do.
It doesn't make any sense at all, and they're starting to feel the pain. Look at Mika's face. She just looks like, oh my God, what is happening? How do we fix this?
I do wonder where the adults are, the adults that are supposed to be running the university, the amount of money that they are paid to educate students, and they can't allow students to go to class because a small subset of those students and outside agitators want to shut down the camp. Where are the adults?
Nowhere to be found, and yet the Democrat Party is beginning to blame these kids for the actions that they're taking, when obviously all of this, I do mean all of this, has been allowed to fester on these campuses for decades, and now you're reaping what you sowed.
It's staggering. Not just to me. I know I'm a conservative.
Yeah, you're a conservative.
Not just to me, but to 90% of Americans. They want to.
And that's what their problem is. It's resonating with 90% of Americans. It's crossing platforms. Everybody can see it, and everybody is sour on this. 90% of Americans are like, what the hell is wrong with these kids? You did this. I don't know if you want to go back to Obama or not, but you created this mess. You allowed Frankenstein's monster to come to life, and now you can't control it. And Dementia Joe and Cackles Kamala have no idea what to do to get this thing back under wraps.
Know where the adults are at Columbia. They want to know where the adults are at Penn. They want to know where the adults are at Harvard. They want to know where the adults are at all of these college campuses where they're letting their students and outside agitators run across the campus, shut down debate.
Isn't this what AOC wanted?
It is especially important that we remember the power of young people shaping this country today, of all days, as we once again witness the leadership of those peaceful student-led protests on campuses like Columbia, Yale, Berkeley, and many others.
Isn't this what Omar, what's her name, Ilhan Omar, that's what they wanted? They wanted to let these kids show what they really felt. You're getting all this Soros money, but they're using it. You created this monster, MSNBC. Now you got to live with it.
Scream whenever anybody tries to talk reason to them. Shout genocidal chants.
It's just May, and they've already realized that Dementia Joe has been completely exposed. The corrupt trials, they're falling apart. Trump is using New York City to his advantage, and he's holding rallies on the off days. The Supreme Court may punt the immunity case back to the lower courts, which is going to take months to go through. Fannie Willis is on a runaway train wreck. Letitia James, well, she's been rendered irrelevant as Trump goes through the appellate process. And Dementia Joe's weak ploy to try and buy these kids off by trying to forgive student debt, well, that's not working either. These campus protests are on the news every single day on every network. And these college kids are putting the blame squarely on Dementia Joe. And the worst part about it is that there's nothing. I mean, there's not a single thing that he can do about it. There's not a chance that America withdraws or pulls its support for Israel, which means these little commies are going to stay mad for quite some time. And that's bad news for Dementia Joe and Cackles Kamala. I mean, at this point, I don't know what they do, and I don't really care. I'm just sitting back with some popcorn and enjoying the show. What I'm about to show you from James Carville is absolute gold, because in this clip, James Carville, the renowned Democrat strategist, goes absolutely postal on these kids. It's amazingly delicious. I had to bleep out a few of the words he was using because, oh my God, he had a potty mouth throughout the entire segment that he talked here. But he just goes after these kids, and you can just see the desperation as he's talking. Complete desperation. Let's check it out.
Are you kidding me? Is this the United States of America? Is this the nation that was founded on the principle that no person is above the law? And then you tell these young people, if you don't get involved right now in this election, they're going to be involved in your life for the rest of your freaking life.
I'm sorry, James. Are you a little upset? You a little worried about what's happening out there on the college campuses? That these kids have turned their back on Dementia Joe? Well, you should be.
And if Trump and Roberts and Alito and Gorsuch and Thomas and Leonard Leo and the Heritage Foundation, if they get a hold, there will be no government left.
Imagine that. He's standing in front of the Statue of Liberty painting and talking about there won't be any government left because Dementia Joe won't be able to go crazy with lawfare and giving billions of dollars to a country that nobody can find on a map. Meanwhile, all we want is freedom. He doesn't understand that, or actually he probably does understand that.
There'll be no rights left. You'll live under theocracy. You'll end up with Christian nationalism. But that's all right, you little
So Christian nationalism, that's horrible. So you're afraid of a theocracy. You're afraid of Christian nationalism. You guys coined this phrase to give us just another thing that you could call us in a derogatory fashion. We're Christians. It has nothing to do with Christian nationalism, as if that's bad somehow.
26-year-old, you don't feel like the election's important to me. They're not addressing the issues that I care about.
Understand this guy's older than me, probably older than you, and he's absolutely losing it on these kids.
The New York Times wrote a story about the Harvard Youth Poll, which is a pretty good, well-regarded thing, a guy named John Della Volpe. And very recently, they gave youngsters the 15 most important issues. Clocking in at number 14 was student debt. You wouldn't know that if you read the press. Number 15 was the issue of Palestine. High on the list was interest rates, was housing affordability.
So he's trying to tell them what you guys are worried about doesn't really matter. Most people don't care about your protest and what you're trying to get accomplished on these college campuses. Just knock it off. We're going to take care of the ones that you actually do care about. Must be news to these kids who seem to be quite full of passion about the issue that you say is the least important issue to college kids.
Well, all of these other things. You are being insufficiently served by the commentariat.
So right now he turns into a different person and says, you're stupid. You're being insufficiently served by basically information you're hearing from other people. You don't really know what's important to you. That's the problem with the Democrat Party. They always think they know better than you do. So now here's this guy who's probably almost 80, if not already 80, telling these college kids, you don't know what's important to you. You're being insufficiently spoken to by other people.
But to some extent, you're being insufficiently served through Democratic messaging.
So now he's saying that the message that, the guy who's in charge right now, or actually, we don't know who's in charge, but supposedly in charge, Dementia Joe and Cackles Kamala, they're the ones who are supposedly in charge, and now he's going after their message and saying, you're being insufficiently served by their message as well. Well, whose message are they supposed to be listening to if they're being insufficiently served by the Democratic messages?
My advice to tell these young people to get off your ass and go vote, because you should vote like your entire future and the entire future of this United States depends on it.
All right, so forget what you're doing. Forget the messaging you've heard. Forget what your friends may be saying and the comments you're hearing on social media. What you need to do is forget all that. Get off your butts. Get out there and vote for Dementia Joe and Calculus Kamala, because once you do that, everything will be fine. But how do they just stop what they're doing, ignore everything, and decide it'll be okay with the vote? I don't think that's an efficient message, James. It's not working.
Because quite frankly, it does. And that's not an exaggeration.
And that's not an exaggeration. Your entire future depends on you voting for Dementia Joe and Cackles Kamala, even though you don't know what you're protesting about. Well, you started it, man. You guys encouraged all this upheaval. You wanted the summer of love. You got the summer of love. See what's going to happen. School's going to be out in probably 1 or 2 weeks. Is this just going to die out? Or are we going to see some more upheaval in the streets this summer? Can you smell the desperation? I mean, it just emanates from him. It's obvious that the internal numbers that they're seeing are completely different and worse than what CNN and MSNBC have been putting out. What you're seeing is Trump fear rising. We're about to see desperation on an epic scale, and I'm so here for it. But I have to tell you, be cautious, because the more desperate these people become, and they are going to become more desperate, the more drastic the things that they will do to try and keep power. They're going to try everything they possibly can to stop Trump. And I do mean probably everything. We all need to pray and put on the armor of God. Who knows what they'll try to pull in the next couple of months. Be careful, but this is awesome news to see these people starting to get very, very desperate. They know they can no longer hide Dementia Joe and Cackles Kamala. Let me know what you think in the comments about this delicious desperation. Don't forget, this Wednesday night, 5:30, I go live with the Donald Trump rally out at Freeland, Michigan, Saginaw County, Michigan. I'd love for you to join me. Just click right here. It'll take you to the live broadcast page where you can click to be notified so you don't miss it when I go live on Wednesday night at 5:30. Talk to you soon.